I believe in the future of agriculture, with a faith born not of words, but of deeds. Some of you may recognize this as the first sentence to the FFA Creed written by Ian Tiffany. But what is FFA and what does it exactly stand for? That is what I'm going to talk about today. So the organization formerly known as the Future Farmers of America is a youth organization in high school, at the high school level. I say formally known because in 1988 the organization did something very significant. It changed its name from the Future Farmers of America to the National FFA Organization. So while FFA technically still does mean Future Farmers of America, the name itself encompasses all facets of the agriculture industry, from agriculture education to agriculture or to production agriculture, for people like me who didn't necessarily want to become a farmer but wanted to get involved. A few other significant dates in the organization's history: in 1928 the organization was founded, in 1969 women were allowed into the organization, and in 2016, just last year, membership reached almost 700,000 members and almost 8,000 chapters. And I'll talk about what that really means. Now, looking at logistically how FFA is broken down, it's broken down into a 3-ring model, and I like to start with instruction. So this is kind of where students really gain the skills and learn the knowledge about the agriculture industry, and occurs in the classroom. To be an FFA, a student must be enrolled in an agriculture education class in high school, and this is really where they learn the basics of what goes on in the agriculture industry. Moving down into the FFA circle, this is where we have competitions and conferences where students are really challenged to learn new skills that they might not necessarily learn in the classroom, such as leadership. Finally, moving to the final circle is SAE, or Supervised Agricultural Experience. This is what we typically think of when we think of FFA members showing an animal or something like that. My SAE in high school was agricultural education, and I maintained an outdoor classroom and a garden area so that students could see the biological processes that go on in everyday life to get food from farm to fork. So now talking about the opportunities in FFA. So this is kind of the meat of what I'd like to talk about today, because the opportunities go so far deeper than I think most students realize. So for example, a lot of us think that FFA members, the biggest thing they do is raise and show livestock, which is very true in some aspects. However, it goes so much deeper than that. I personally raised sheep and goats in high school, and actually showed my trusty steed, Daisy. She's on the bottom right corner. She's actually about 25 pounds heavier after that picture, but she's living a comfortable life. There's also what's called career development events, which are like our judging teams. So some career development events that I participated in were poultry judging. Yes, I actually judged chickens. Dairy products judging, so if you've ever seen Napoleon Dynamite and he says that the cow has been in an onion patch, I did compete in that competition as well. And finally, an agricultural sales class. So these competitions really help for career readiness, so if students wanted to become a USDA poultry inspector, then they might participate in a poultry judging competition. Next, we have conferences and conventions. Again, this is where students really learn aspects of themselves that they might not necessarily learn from reading a textbook or getting an assignment. There's conferences at each grade level, and a fun fact about the National FFA Convention is that it can only be held in 3 locations in the United States because so many students and faculty members attend. Finally, as far as community service goes, that is another huge aspect of living to serve as a part of FFA. So for example, this picture right here with me and a hairnet, that was when I attended a conference in Washington, D.C., and we packaged over 5,000 meals for people who are needy in the area. So there's so many different opportunities within FFA, and it goes so far in more in depth than just raising animals. So talking about the future of FFA, there's definitely some conflicts that arise in the future. So for example, a few years ago, Governor Brown tried to take out Bill AB 2033. This funded chapters across the state. Chapter is a school, basically. And so, but because of bipartisan support and thousands of individuals from across the state, the governor decided that it was not going to be a reasonable decision for him to make. So another conflict we face is animal activist organizations like PETA think that what FFA members are doing is cruel and inhumane. And while this is a totally different conversation, these projects do help students really gain the responsibility, leadership skills that is in a very hands-on basis, and eventually leads to feeding the men, women, and children across our nation. And finally, we see really good things, like FFA chapters popping up in the inner cities, where people have been raised their whole lives to think that food comes from the grocery store, and they don't actually understand the biological processes that get food from farm to fork. So why is this really important to me? Well, these are my siblings, Brad and Michelle. We were all in FFA. My brother was all 4 years, and so was I, and my sister will be as well. Both my parents were agricultural educators. My dad is still an agricultural educator at Modesto Junior College, and I really think that the last line of the FFA Creed sums it up. I can exert an influence in my home and my community, which will stand solid for my part in that inspiring task. FFA has given me the opportunity to add value to not only my life, but others as well. So I hope now you see that the FFA is not only an organization of future farmers, but an organization of future leaders. Thank you.